It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever, Warren.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, breaking news, culture, matic warfare. Will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. Welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, the most watched daily Bitcoin live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Lots of stuff to talk about. Well, mainly, there's like 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 reasons as to why this cycle is going to be absolutely bonkers. And it's not just hopium, it's like literal reasons. Like, we will name them, we will go one by one the specific reasons, and it's absolutely insane because these things weren't happening last cycle when we were at 60. I think we peaked at like 69,000. None of these things were true. They weren't even remotely true. Like, Sailor wasn't vindicated. You didn't have nation states mining Bitcoin. The Bitcoin ETF wasn't approved. And I think we all feel it. Like, we're at $71,586 right now. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm just bored, right? So I think we all kind of feel what's coming. I think we're all, a little bit bored. And, it's kind of like you run a marathon and you're almost done with the marathon. You finish, you see the finish line, but that's like the hardest part. It's the hardest part. That's the part where you're like, oh man, it's close, but it's not so close. So I think we're on the verge of something absolutely epic. I feel it in my bones. And today we're actually going to talk about, the actual reasons as to why this is lining up to be something like epic, historic, insane. I think it's going to melt faces definitely the next 12 to 18 months. Hurts to say that because it's a long time, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it is. In other news, also, Opti's ex-girlfriend, she went on Twitter a couple days ago, and it's official. The European Union is rolling out a central bank digital currency. And I mean, it's like, do you need one? No. Do the central bankers need one to stay relevant? Absolutely. And this is interesting because in the United States, at least, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to roll it out just because of the vote that happened in the House the other day. And also, not to mention the fact that there are specific states like the great state of Florida that have passed laws that specifically forbid the rollout of central bank digital currencies. Also, in other news too, it seems like the pension funds' big purchase of the spot Bitcoin ETF, more than $100 million, is making the legacy media news, right? So there was this PBS, just kind of like news bit, very traditional media, very old school, and they were talking about it, and I could just kind of see her face like seething. Like, and again, like, you can't call it's at this point when you have a fully funded state pension fund, state pension buying allocations to Bitcoin, you have massive banks like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, BNB Paribas. At what point do you call it a scam? And then these are very powerful institutions, and all of a sudden their incentives are going to start aligning a little bit with Bitcoin. So that's also something to talk about as well, right? Anyway, it's going to be a great episode. Lots to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. I also want to bring up my legendary co-host, who's always optimistic. I mean, not to say that anymore. So the Casanova of the central bankers. We have Optimus Fields in the house. How you doing, Opti?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Life's great. Everything's wonderful. We get paradise. We get Bitcoin. Who could really complain at this point? Life is awesome. Anyways, I already feel like I need to get the energy up. I am on my second cup of coffee, so I'm lacking on my caffeine this morning. But man, Interesting time. Also, it looks like we might be getting close to 73K. We might be touching all-time highs. So are we breaking out? Are we testing all-time highs? Who knows? But boys, we are so back. And girls in the chat, we're so back.
Yeah,
it
I
feels
don't feel
so
anything
good.
though. Like we're close to
I
all-time
know.
highs.
We're
and I'm
dead
just like,
inside. We're dead inside.
I'm like, like, what is this? Like type of thing, right?
Man.
So anyways, I do want to bring up our special guest for today. We have in the house, Daniel. How you doing? Thank you so much for joining us on Simply Bitcoin Live.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you the invite up and excited to hang out and talk simply about Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
It's the
So
way.
Opti, why don't you give the audience a quick elevator pitch about what we are going to talk about during the culture?
Yeah, exactly. So you guys know the deal, the culture. We feature our guests, and we got Daniel. He is president of Bitcoin is Better, author of the book titled by the same name, Bitcoin is Better. So I guess I'll give the floor for you, Daniel. What's a TLDR elevator pitch on what is Bitcoin is Better?
So Bitcoin is better means something different to everyone. Bitcoin, as we know, is a very broad idea. So as you adopt Bitcoin, it's going to be something personal to you, something that Bitcoin makes better in your life. So the idea of the book was to write 5 chapters. I could have written probably 20 or 30 chapters, but why Bitcoin is better money, better economics, better politics, better property, and better health. And distilling that message into the common man language, a book that I could give to my dad and that he would understand. So that was the book. The nonprofit, the idea behind the nonprofit is you reach a point like in your Bitcoin rabbit hole journey where, at least me personally, I almost felt like I was becoming intellectually selfish by going deeper and deeper, when really, I mean, Bitcoin is much simpler money than fiat. So it's like, instead of going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, why don't we go out and try to, share that there is a rabbit hole? Like, just because we're decentralized doesn't mean we need to be disorganized.
Love it.
So the best vehicle, like, to do that, because when I speak with pre-Bitcoiners, when I share that we're a nonprofit focused on financial education, the guard goes down, because whether we like it or not, there is a lot of baggage from the last crypto collapse with FTX and Celsius and BlockFi. So yeah, super excited. We've got 10 people, all volunteers on our board, Bitcoin only, and yeah, hoping to do big things. Starting, we started the beginning of this year, so we're new, but we've got some big ideas. So yeah, thanks for having me up, guys.
Love it,
man. Well, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to hear more about it during the culture segment. Culture segment is dedicated to Bitcoiners from all walks of life, so they can talk about what they're doing, what they're contributing to this peaceful Bitcoin revolution. And I can't wait to hear more about what Daniel is working on. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the show, I do want to highlight our lead sponsor. Of course, Simply Bitcoin is powered by the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. It's a publicly traded company coming out of Canada that recently expanded to all 50 US states. It's a self-custody by default Bitcoin platform. Future-proof your money with self-custody by default. What does that mean? That means that you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you're going to take self-custody, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state, because after all, self-custody is the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. Go to their website, incredibly easy to use. Go to bitcoinwell.com, buy real Bitcoin, enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the USA. All you got to do to get started is you put in your email address. Literally, the verification process takes less than like 5 minutes. It's super quick. There's a clear 1% spread, which is the industry standard. Bitcoin only, non-custodial, empowering sovereign ownership with free automatic self-custody. Go to bitcoinwell.com today. Also, if you're an existing Bitcoin Well user, they just rolled out the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. It's super awesome. You have an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats every time. The way that you enter is, all you have to do is you buy Bitcoin. You buy Bitcoin, you earn Bitcoin Well points. Then you go to the dashboard, you go to the My Rewards section, and then you click on redeem. And you just click right here, Bitcoin wishing well, toss a coin, win some sats. Let's do that right now. Let's read the quote. There's a new one every time. It's like 90s references. You're being transported back to 1998 and Furby toys are the latest craze among kids. Enable your independence by wishing for more sats. It might just come true. So let's flick a coin in the wishing well. Let's see what happens. All right. Boom, just like that, we won 500 sats. I'm going to leave that up on screen, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to redeem that myself. So first come, first serve. Every wish wins some sats. So guys, check out the wishing well feature by Bitcoin Well. Let's redeem some more. All right, let's do this one more time. Next one is you're being transported back to 1995 and Windows 95 is revolutionizing personal computing. Enable your independence by wishing for more sats. It might just come true. Let's redeem those 500 points. Toss a coin in the wishing well and boom, 500 sats. So I'm going to leave this on screen, on the pre-recorded screen. So anybody with the Lightning wallet, you can scan this and you can redeem your 500 sats. Again, the way that you earn points is you just buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you redeem it, and you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis every time you flick a coin into the Bitcoin wishing well. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com today, sign up, become a customer, support self-custody by default Bitcoin on-ramps. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. Alright, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. You could scan the QR code on your screen right now, take you directly to the Stamp Seed website, so you can get yourself a titanium Stamp Seed storage kit, so you don't have to explain to your grandchildren why you lost your generational wealth because you decided to store your seed phrase on paper. Don't do that. Stamp it on titanium. Promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the Stamp Seed website. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $71,690. I feel nothing inside. Sats per dollar, 1,395. Block height, 846,641. Blocks to halving, 203,359. Halving estimate March 22nd, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity 4,752 Bitcoin. Capacity value $340 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation 1.62%. Market capitalization 1.41 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 8.79%. Once Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold, I think that puts it at between $600,000 to $700,000 per Bitcoin. That's absolutely insane. Anyways, a key theme of this show, something that I say not every day anymore, but something that I say often, is Bitcoin or slavery. I want to emphasize this. First of all, this is not a hyperbolic statement, number one. Number two, when I say slavery, I'm specifically referencing central bank digital currencies. Central bank digital currencies are what's going to enable slavery. I would say that as long as fiat is a thing, as long as the government is able to issue money, as long as the government is able to control money, you will never have a government by its people for the people. You will always have a government by the government for the government. They will never be incentivized to do good by their constituents. They will always be incentivized to keep the control system, keep the money printer alive, keep the control on money alive, because they're not incentivized. Their power, their funding doesn't come from the people. It comes from the government themselves. This is what the peaceful revolution is all about. This is what the separation of money and state is all about. And government bureaucrats, the administrative state, some people call it the deep state, but it's the administrative state. They will never, that bureaucracy will never act out of the benefit to benefit the people. They will always act to benefit themselves, to ensure their own survival, to ensure their own employment. That's what they're going to do, right? And does that really work for everybody? Like, as long as fiat is a thing, governments will hold all of their citizens hostage. And that's just a fact, right? This is what the separation of money and state is all about. We have to bring, we're based out of America, but this applies to every country on planet Earth. We have to give the government back to the hands of the people. And we can't do that without getting rid of fiat. We can't do that without getting rid of the money printer. One of the things that I've always said is that you can't be a pro Bitcoin and anti CBDC president, right? There was a bill that was passed not too long ago, May 23rd, and the bill was to ban the Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency. Now, what was really interesting is that it was like literally by party lines. All the Republicans voted for the ban on the Federal Reserve issuing a CBDC. Almost all the Democrats voted against the ban, which I found really interesting. And my question to everybody is, why are so many Democrats pro CBDC, right? And if CBDCs are slavery, it's kind of interesting why the Democratic Party would be, pro slavery money. Anyways, so I do want to mention this because, again, just because you don't see it, just because it doesn't fall on your feed, doesn't mean that it's not happening, right? We all know Opti's, ex-girlfriend or one of his ex-girlfriends. He loves dating central bankers. Here is Christine Lagarde. And here is her announcement of a central bank digital currency. Of course, we did a block yesterday during the culture segment on the importance of memes. This is a memes. It's just like, this is just a horrific meme. Like, what is that with the multicolor in the background? Like the purple and the blue, like it looks dystopian. That pantsuit, that shit looks scary. Like, what is that pin? It's some like demonic emblem, I guess. Anyways, let's check it out.
The digital euro is on the move. Yesterday, the Governing Council of the ECB approved the opening of the preparation phase. It will be a journey, and we will walk the journey together with the legislator. All European institutions will be involved to make sure that Europe is equipped with the currency of the future. Cash is here to stay. You will have all options, cash and digital cash. So what does it mean for you? For consumers, it would be free and easy to use everywhere in the euro area. All of that, of course, is subject to the legislative process. Cash or digital, the choice will be yours.
Okay, I got a better choice for you guys. Bitcoin or slavery. Like, that's the actual choice. And it is a bit dystopian. Like, it is dystopian AF. Like the way that she phrased it, you will have a choice. We're doing this through the legislative process. You can kind of, like, human beings have an ability to, and as I've gotten older, I've chosen to listen to my intuition more and more and more. And what is your intuition? Your intuition is basically millions of years of evolution of your ancestors making these mistakes, and it just kind of builds up, right? You kind of just know innately something is wrong, right? Whether that's about a person or if you're in a specific situation, like you're in a room, you can't explain it. You can't like make a logical explanation of it in your head, but you innately know something is wrong. When you watch that video, do you really trust her? Does that sound like someone who's trustworthy? Does that sound like someone that you're like, oh yeah, cash is here to stay? You will have a choice. Like, she's saying all the things that she has to say in order for you to trust her. But with that fake ass background, with that pantsuit that she's wearing, it doesn't inspire trust, right? And also, don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do. They're doing this, but at the same time, they're hostile against the alternative. They're hostile because, and she's laying the case. She's like, Europeans will have two options, cash and digital cash. But the digital cash is going to be a CBDC, right? We're not going to get rid of cash altogether. That's moving the Overton window way too fast, too quickly. We'll get rid of that later, but let's get this instituted first. No mention of Bitcoin as an alternative. So basically, you have a central banker that has the backing of the government, basically saying like, look, like you don't have a choice to use Bitcoin. We don't determine that Bitcoin is money. So therefore, you can't use Bitcoin. And then connect this with what I was saying in the beginning. You cannot have a government that works for the people until the money and state are separated. It is impossible. The incentive structure is not aligned whatsoever. You're going to have a system of control that is purposefully designed in order to protect its moat, in order to protect itself. And what you're seeing with that video from Christine Lagarde, when you see that video from Ursula basically saying, oh, we have to be preemptive. It's not enough to censor. We have to preemptively censor, meaning we have to check the information before it releases, us government bureaucrats, and get to decide what is right and what is not right. And this reminds me of Jeff Booth's, things. Every time he comes on Simply Bitcoin IRL, I highly recommend that episode, by the way. He like blows my mind because essentially the case that he makes is, Nico, in this system of theft, coercion is necessary in order for it to function. Without it, it cannot function, right? And I think what you're seeing there with Christine Lagarde, what you're seeing there, unfortunately, in Congress, is you have a large amount, not all of them, it's not a monolith, but you have a big percentage of politicians and bureaucrats that fundamentally believe that they have the right. And remember, specifically in the US, where the Constitution is purposely built not to give you freedoms and rights, but to protect the government from taking those freedoms and rights away from you, right? You have politicians and bureaucrats that fundamentally believe, because fiat has given them this belief, that they have the right to choose, the ability to choose what money you can use and what money you can't use. I refuse to go back to that system. And our system is not based on coercive means. Our system is based on incentives. So people aren't coming to Bitcoin or the other shit coins for whatever reason they'd want to do that because they're being coerced to do so. They're doing it because they're following their incentives. And who created an incentive structure for people to seek alternatives? Governments did. Why? Because they debased the currency. Therefore, they broke the trust that the population bestowed onto them and said, I am going to trust you, me, the citizen, with the money. But governments broke that trust, used it to enrich themselves, and worse, they used it to not only enslave us, but propagate these endless wars. Enough is enough. It's time to separate money from state. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Opti. Opti, what's your take on this? Why, dude, I know I'm going to I sound like I'm beating a dead horse metaphorically, bro, but why'd you do that to Chrissy? Why'd you do that to Chrissy? She's vindictive. She's vengeful. She absolutely hates you. She's out for blood, man.
Yeah, well, Nico, ain't nothing worse than a spiteful lover, and I think this is what we're seeing right now. Anyways, all right, seriously. I really liked when Christine Lagarde said the choice will be yours. It's going to be between cash and a digital cash, except for, no mention of Bitcoin. And it was basically, as someone said in the chat, which reminds me of pretty much politics in a nutshell, is like you can have a choice on this hand and a choice in this hand. And these are the only two choices you have, just completely ignoring the fact that Bitcoin is a thing. And they're just like, yeah, man, again, they always go back to the same thing, that this is all about the ease of payments and for your convenience. And she even said, like, it will be free and it'll be easy. And like, nothing is free, and they trap you with ease. Like, you will end up a slave in a digital dystopia by the slow creep of digital central bank cash. And this is the slow creep. They come out here, they try to make memes, they try to make it palatable for the average person, they try to make it seem like they are doing something for your benefit, when in reality it's very nefarious, and they are just trying to trap you in a cage. So the PSA, I think, here is quit exchanging convenience for safety. Like, do not trust these central bankers. Do not trust, at this point, don't trust any banker, I would say, and become your own bank, like the Bitcoiners always say. And again, I'm not surprised that Christine Lagarde is pushing their CBDC narrative forward. I think they have to. I think they're at the point where they are absolutely backed up in a corner, because everything, all fiat currencies seem to be failing. And of course, if they have everyone in a digital cash, then it basically means that they could just press a button and print more money. They just add more zeros to the total balance sheet. And literally in seconds, they will be able to expand the money supply and steal your wealth. So don't take this abuse. Opt out of the madness. Start saving in Bitcoin. You don't need their binary options here. You need to get off zero today and save in Bitcoin. There is a third option, and it is saving in Bitcoin. And again, at this point, how can you even trust these people? How do you trust the institutions after all the abuse they've thrown on you, and you think that they're going to do something for your benefit? It's like, no, we say it all the time. It's all about incentives, and they're incentivized to keep you in that gilded cage. Make sure that you trade your liberties, your rights for safety. And we're seeing this play out again. And I'm not surprised that it's like she does it. She's got that like wealthy, nice grandma vibe to her shorts, where she's like, look, I'm here to help you, man. Like, this is some elderly advice here. And in reality, she's got a knife behind her back, and she's going to literally stab you in the back and get you trapped forever and ever and ever, and your children forever and ever and ever. So start saving in Bitcoin today. Anyways, Daniel, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't know that I could top that explanation of a CBDC. You guys really knocked it out. I refer to them as central bank digital chains. So as you mentioned, I mean, it's all about convenience, and we really, I feel a duty to wake people up that, liberty is more important than security. And I get so frustrated, especially speaking with people in the middle class who cling to paying in paper cash to try to avoid the CBDC, or cling to gold. It's like, that is a complete denial of the future, because the future is digital payments. So we're not going to pay each other with paper cash over the internet. We're not going to pay each other with gold. So it's like, Bitcoin is so important. There is that is the other option, Bitcoin or slavery, because we need a digital cash, which is decentralized, and no one controls the ledger. So when I hear Christine Lagarde speak or Jerome Powell speak, I just think 50 to 100 years from now, people are going to be shocked that we let these groups of central bankers control the ledger. So those are my 2 cents.
Hey man, I think that's
Can we read this comment, because I think this is great. So when some hacks go, start calling them digital vouchers. You will get paid in vouchers with expiry dates and controls on how they can be spent. Absolutely love that. And to Daniel's point, you said central bank digital chains, and I always say central bank digital control. It's the same thing.
100%, man. We have to be vigilant. We have to be aware of what it is, and we have to keep our eyes open. Anyways, I do want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor. And of course, I am talking about the Pleb Party in Nashville. That's going to be the day before the largest Bitcoin conference on planet Earth. And of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin 2024. hosted in Nashville, Tennessee. There's going to be a pleb party. It's an official satellite event the day before the conference starts, Thursday, July 25th. It's a 12-hour open bar from noon to midnight pleb party in Nashville. Confirmed attendees include Larry Lepard, Preston Pish, the entire Simply Bitcoin crew, including Nico, Sophie, Opti, Rustin, James Lavish, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Pubby, Tatum Turnup, Adam O'Brien, and many more. It's going to be hosted at an amazing venue, a rustic automobile factory from 1910 with brick walls and tons of proof of work atmosphere. The last pleb party in Miami was sold out 8 days before the event. You will not be able to get tickets at the door. There's only about 50 tickets or so left at the $200 price point. So you want to get your tickets before the tickets run out. They will not let you in at the door. This is where all your friends are going to be. Over 1,000 Bitcoin plebs are expected to attend the event. So get your tickets now to the Pleb Party Nashville 2024. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys in person at the Pleb Party in Nashville. It's a great way to, network and spark up conversations with some of your favorite Bitcoiners. All right, everybody, let's move on to the news. Lots to talk about.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, everybody. I want to give a shout out to Passport by Foundation Devices. It's incredibly easy. It's so easy to use. It makes spending your cold storage Bitcoin, if you pair it up with the Envoy app, it's awesome. It's completely air gapped. Even the USB-C connector in the bottom, it has no data. It's power only. So you can literally only spend your Bitcoin on here, or the private keys that are on here. You can only use them via the camera on the back and the QR code, or there's a micro USB slot at the very top. So you want to obviously keep your Bitcoin completely air gapped, your Bitcoin private keys completely air gapped, and obviously we recommend our sponsor, Passport by Foundation Devices. It is literally one of the best Bitcoin hardware wallets on the market right now. We use it ourselves at Simply Bitcoin. All right, everybody, I do want to get to this news. Also, shout out to the 930 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X, and shout out to the 30 of you guys watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button on Twitter, on YouTube. Help us break 150 likes within the first hour. It really helps with the algos, and it tells the algos to push this content forward. Anyways, the name of the title of today's show is why the 2025 bull market is going to be absolutely insane. And the reason for that, and I'll give you 5 reasons specifically, is things are very different compared to the last time we were at these price points. You have institutional interest. You have nation states mining Bitcoin. You have the hash rate reaching all-time high. Things are very different. And with the institutional interest, with the introduction of a BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF, that is the legitimization in the eyes of TradFi of Bitcoin. It's basically saying Bitcoin is here to stay. It's a legit asset. It's not going to get banned. And let's check out this bit from PBS, Legacy Media, talking about the Wisconsin state pension plan. Let's check it out.
The Wisconsin Pension Fund, ranked as one of the most fiscally sound in the nation, took bold action this year. It invested in Bitcoin. Most all government workers are part of the employee trust fund that pays out retirement benefits. But for a pension fund widely known for being stable, prudent, and smart with investments, is this a departure or right on brand? Our next guest says it's certainly turning heads. We should note PBS Wisconsin employees are participants in the Wisconsin retirement system.
Dude, you know how like how epic that was? It's like, first of all, this is one of the largest in the country, by the way. It's like, look, like even our own employees are going to have exposure to Bitcoin now. Government workers. So do you think these government workers are going to act against their own interests? Do you guys understand what's happening? Like Bitcoin is literally like getting its tentacles in all places, and it's absolutely awesome. Let's check it out.
We are joined by David Krause, Marquette University Emeritus Associate Professor of Finance. And thanks very much for being here.
Yes, thank you.
So what is the reaction within the kind of investment industry to this news?
The investment industry is pretty amazed that a pension fund this early in the introduction of the Bitcoin ETF came on board. They expected it might take several years before there would be institutional involvement with Bitcoin investing.
So Bitcoin ETF is different and apart from the kind of Bitcoins that folks might have in their digital wallets?
Yeah, that's right. It was January of this year that the spot Bitcoin ETF was approved by the SEC. That allowed investors like the university systems or SWIB in this case, the Wisconsin Investment Board, to buy directly these securities that are regulated by the SEC, highly liquid, and traded on exchanges.
Still, was it a surprise to you to see that?
It was, but Wisconsin's investment board has always been innovative. This is a fully funded pension fund. Mm-hmm. So in a way, they have the luxury of being able to invest for the long term. They don't need to worry as much about liquidity as, say, the pension fund for the state of Illinois, mm-hmm. which is only funded at 50%. Yeah. Of its level.
So should it cause pensioners, though, or workers to worry given the volatility of Bitcoin?
A lot of assets are volatile. I mean, if you really were to look deep down into the portfolio, you would see that a lot of assets, including some stocks, as well as some other alternative investments, are quite volatile in nature. Yeah, Bitcoin has moved around a lot, but supply and demand are starting to balance out. And I do think the investment community is beginning to understand this more as a viable alternative investment.
So how much are they putting into Bitcoin compared to the fund itself?
Well, compared to the fund itself, it's just a toe in the water. It's 1/10 of 1%. Now, $180 million is not pocket change, but this is a $180 billion fund. I think it's just an entry point. I think they're testing to see the reaction of the public to whether or not there's resistance to owning this, and they're using it as a trial run. Because it really is not going to impact the portfolio substantially until you...
Now, I'm gonna stop it right there, guys. I highly recommend checking out the entire interview. I'm gonna put it in the chat, but I'm gonna make a prediction. And so far, we've been on point with predictions, haven't we, Opti? And it's not because Opti and I are geniuses or anything like that. It's just because we are literally believe in... The way that we look at this is we understand Bitcoin's game theory and we understand incentives. If you understand those two things, and of course you can sprinkle in the theories from the sovereign individual, the theory of violence, I think is, we kind of use that sometimes to make predictions and stuff. Not price predictions. No one knows where the price of Bitcoin is going to be ultimately anywhere at any time. But in terms of the adoption of Bitcoin, it's going to start off with 1/10 of 1%. But what's going to happen is when Bitcoin does its number go up thing, even if they don't allocate more money to it, it's going to grow to 1% of the pension fund because of number go up technology. What do you think they're going to do at that point? They're going to put in more. And then what's going to happen after that? It's going to compound. All of a sudden, government workers in other states that are looking at the Wisconsin pension fund, they're going to say, wait a second, why isn't our pension fund investing or getting exposure to Bitcoin? Their pension fund is outperforming our pension fund. And remember, these are government workers. So all of a sudden, any politician that comes out vocally against Bitcoin, what do you think is going to happen to them? They're not going to be very popular with the government workers themselves. And this is why going back to the CBDC stuff, we are going to win at the end of the day because Bitcoin has superior incentives. Full stop. Right. So we said there was a couple bullish things. This is bullish thing number one. We would never have imagined this back in 2016, 2017, when Opti and I came into this. One of the narratives that we used when Bitcoin had its correction in 2018 was the pensions are coming. The institutions are coming. They're coming to save the day. No. They took them, they took their sweet ass time, but they're finally here. And when you have these types of legacy media interviews, right? And remember, the audience of this type of content are the older generation, which have the lion's share of the wealth. And in their eyes, they're seeing this and they're like, wait a second, this ETF might be a good idea. And by the way, nothing is just by coincidence. All right. There's no coincidences here. This is happening because BlackRock owns the world, and BlackRock basically said, you know what? Bitcoin is good now. This ESG stuff, it's not Bitcoin good now. Orange coin good, right? Anyways, here's Adam back, absolute legend. And look, just pointing it out. Another thing, another reason as to why you should be bullish, and another reason as to why I believe the end of 2024 and 2025 are going to be absolutely insane. So February 4th, new Bitcoin mined, 450. Bitcoin purchased by ETFs, 12,508. Literally, bro. Look, with gold, this can't happen because when the price of gold goes up, the production of gold goes up with it. Even if the price of Bitcoin goes up, not only does the production of Bitcoin stay the same, it actually gets cut in half every 4 years, right? Okay, next thing. Absolute comeback by the ETFs. We had the second largest ETF inflow. I believe it was yesterday. Shout out to our friends over at Bitcoin Magazine tweeting this out. Bitcoin ETFs saw $886 million in inflows yesterday. The 16th straight day of inflows. We are so back, and we're currently sitting at $71,347. Anyways, here is the Simply Bitcoin Twitter account. By the way, highly recommend you follow it. It's one of the best new Bitcoin news aggregators right now. Anyways, goes on to say over $887 million in inflows. Zoomers, you missed the M, bros. $887 million in inflows to the Bitcoin ETF. Second highest day ever. Australia launched theirs yesterday. Thailand just approved its first spot Bitcoin ETF. Hash Ribbons, one of the more accurate price predictors, just gave a buy signal. Phew, right? And here's a great, just pointing it out. Here's the 2012 halving. Here's the 2016 halving. Here's the 2020 halving. Here's the 2024 halving. I mean, what do you think is going to happen next? All right, now let's get back to what are the 5 bullish things that I'm looking for? And I'll add a separate one to this before I get into Marty Bent's TFTC article. And that is, of course, nation states mining Bitcoin using publicly traded American companies. So we have the Kingdom of Bhutan that teamed up with BitDeer to use their tremendous amount of excess hydroelectric power to mine Bitcoin. They made a major investment in that small kingdom in the Himalayas. You have Kenya that has an excessive amount of geothermal electric capacity. Marathon just announced that they signed a deal with the government of Kenya to set up Bitcoin miners there. Of course, you have Bitcoin country, the shining country on a hill. Shout out to Max and Stacy doing Satoshi's work down there. And of course, Nayib Bukele, the most popular president in the Americas. And they are using their geothermal electric capacity. There's a lot of volcanoes in El Salvador to mine Bitcoin as well. That's 3 nation states. I suspect, I'm calling it, I can't say anything specifically, but you're going to see Middle Eastern countries that have a tremendous amount of excess energy, keyword there, make some announcements soon. My suspicions, but I'm very, very, very bullish on Bitcoin in the Middle East. Anyways, so here's the TFTC article for our audio listeners. It's called Bitcoin's Bullish Setup. The bullish winds are blowing towards the shores. Are you prepared? So first up, Bitcoin on corporate treasuries. Over the last 70 days, there have been a wave of publicly traded companies from around the world who have announced that they have chosen to allocate to Bitcoin and use it as their preferred corporate treasury asset. The beauty of these announcements is the diversity of Bitcoin acquisition strategies that range from mining it using excess energy to simple dollar cost average strategies. Goes on to say in late April, due to corporate financial filings that changed because of the new FASB accounting rules, the market became aware that Alliance Resources, a coal mining company, has been mining Bitcoin since late 2020 using, keyword here, the excess electricity capacity on their coal mining sites. As of the end of April, they had accumulated and hold 425 Bitcoin. Here is Jack's block. They've been saying that they have been DCAing Bitcoin every month. Jack Dorsey has been a huge proponent of the Bitcoin industry. Here's Metaplanet, which I believe Dylan LeClaire advises or something like that. And they announced a strategic treasury transformation and Bitcoin adoption. And of course, we have Semler Scientific that have bought $40 million worth of Bitcoin, put it on its balance sheet, and adopted Bitcoin as its primary treasury reserve asset. I just want to read how they phrased it, because you have to keep in mind this isn't Bitcoiners saying this. This is a publicly traded company. Quote, our Bitcoin treasury strategy and purchase of Bitcoin underscore a belief that Bitcoin is a reliable store of value and a compelling investment. Bitcoin is now a major asset class with more than $1 trillion of market value. We believe it has unique characteristics as a scarce and finite asset that can serve as a reasonable inflation hedge and safe haven amid global instability. We also believe its digital architectural resilience makes it preferable to gold, which has a market cap value of approximately 10 times that of Bitcoin. Given the gap in value between gold and Bitcoin, we believe that Bitcoin has the potential to generate outsized returns as it gains increasing acceptance as digital gold. That's right. You have a publicly traded company basically saying that gold is a shitcoin. Countries dropping treasuries for hard assets. It goes on to say the weaponization of the rails of the dollars and U.S. treasuries run on, and a federal debt situation that is clearly getting out of hand in the U.S. is forcing sovereign nations to rethink their reserve asset situation. Nothing makes this clearer than the chart above, which highlights the acceleration of gold purchases and an offloading of U.S. treasuries by the Chinese government since 2020, with a big inflection happening in 2023. So as you can see for the audio listeners, right, the amount of U.S. treasuries that the Chinese government is holding is going down, and the amount of gold that they're holding is going higher. But if Bitcoin is superior to gold, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think eventually central bank and governments are going to want to hold instead, right? All roads lead to Bitcoin at the end of the day. All right, bullish thing number 4. Bitcoin ETF success. Despite the fact that we don't believe that exposure to Bitcoin via ETF products is the best way to accumulate Bitcoin, obviously because it's captured Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ETFs are driving insane flows for the providers that have products on the market. So far, BlackRock has accounted for 26% of the overall flows, and Fidelity has accounted for 56% of overall flows into the Fidelity's ETF products. These are mind-numbing numbers, and whether you agree with the Bitcoin ETF products or not, it is impossible to deny that these types of numbers are sticking out to the providers. And that's why you have a change in tune. That's why you have these types of interviews on the legacy financial media. This isn't even legacy financial media anymore. This is just legacy media. They're having these interviews because BlackRock is saying, you know what, actually Bitcoin is a good thing. Anyways, institutional adoption. Speaking of the ETFs, the world became aware of the fact that the Wisconsin Pension Fund allocated $162 million across a number of Bitcoin ETFs. This is massive for many reasons. Obviously, a state pension fund system announcing that they're allocating to Bitcoin ETFs is a massive validation that many people have been waiting for. And of course, you have Marathon announcing that they're teaming up with Kenya, like I mentioned. And of course, last but not least, the halving. It would be remiss of me not to mention the fact that the Bitcoin network experienced its fourth block subsidy halving on April 20th, cutting the predetermined amount of Bitcoin issued to miners per block from 6.25 Bitcoin to 3.125 Bitcoin. We're only 1.5 months post halving, and the market is still adjusting to the supply inflation shock. With all of this demand beginning to be bubbled up, coupled with the fact that Bitcoin is becoming significantly de-risked in real time by the number of announcements that have been made from corporations, pension funds, and nation states alike, it's hard to believe that the supply shock won't have a similar, if not more profound effect on the price during this cycle. And that's the thing that I want to emphasize, guys. Back in 2021, when we were at the price point of 69K, when we peaked at that, the block subsidy was still 6.25. Block subsidy is now 3.125, meaning it's more scarce, right? You didn't have nation states mining Bitcoin. You didn't have pension funds, state pension funds saying that they have exposure to Bitcoin. You didn't have these crazy amount of inflows by all these institutional ETFs. You didn't have the stamp of approval by Larry Fink. You didn't have countries dropping US treasuries seeking hard assets. I think it's just a matter of time before they see one of those hard assets as Bitcoin, which is the hardest asset ever. Of course, you didn't have publicly traded companies announcing that they're adopting a Bitcoin strategy, even though we're still roughly at the same price point as the all-time high in 2021. And this is what I fundamentally believe, that 2020, the end of 2024 and 2025 is going to be absolutely fucking bonkers. It's going to be insane. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are going to be pleasantly surprised. And another thing that I mentioned on yesterday's episode is the fact that a lot of us have PTSD. I actually tweeted about this before we went on air, and because it's something that I think a lot of people are not into consideration. And what is it that I'm talking about exactly? It's the fact that last cycle, I believe last cycle was cut short. I don't see enough people talking about it. Most people are talking about that what they're talking about is the FTX stuff, the rehypothecation, which is true. Don't get me wrong. That is absolutely true. But what I think played a bigger role is the China mining ban. This is something that I've shown to you guys many, many times. Here's the hash rate dropping 50%. And as you can see, there's a direct correlation between the price. And what I think happened is that it cut the bull market short. I think they did this on purpose, in my opinion. Like, the timing of this is way too much of a coincidence. But I really believe that the reason that we didn't hit 100K last cycle is because the Chinese mining ban robbed us of it. So, and I don't see enough people talking about it. Now, why am I bringing this up? I don't think that's going to happen this cycle, as much as there's certain elements of the US government that want to tax Bitcoin miners and whatever. Clearly not politically popular. You know, they could only shoot that shot one time, and they have run out of bullets. You can't. All those miners left China and said, you know what? You guys don't want us to mine here. We're going to go to Kazakhstan. We're going to go to the USA. We're going to go to Paraguay. We're going to go to Kenya. We're going to go to the Kingdom of Bhutan. You know, if you don't want our business, we're going to go someplace else, right? So that's another thing to consider. And I think this is the reason that a lot of people were let down by the performance of Bitcoin last cycle, was because of this. This was not, no one could have foreseen this. No one could have planned this, right? But I think it took the momentum out. Why? Because those miners, right, as the hash rate dropped, they had to sell Bitcoin, and miners hold some of the largest amount of Bitcoin in order to relocate to more favorable jurisdictions. So that's something to keep in mind. Anyways, for all those reasons, for those 5, 6, 7 reasons, that's why I believe that this next cycle, 2025, is going to blow people away. And another thing, and I'll pass this on to you guys, and I asked you guys this question yesterday, is how do you feel right now? We're at $71,469. I feel nothing inside. I feel nothing. I feel nothing. Daniel, how do you feel right now? We're at $71,500. How do you feel?
I feel nothing. And I think it comes with time and the space. because what are you pricing your Bitcoin in? Like we're going to talk about later, like I price Bitcoin in things like tomato soup and things like real estate. And right now we haven't hit a whole time high yet in how many, sats it costs for a can of tomato soup. So I think that once we get into the 80s, 90s, maybe we'll feel like we're really into an all-time high. But right now, I mean, adjusted for inflation and the prices of things, that's probably why we don't feel it.
I wouldn't feel nothing at 89. I'd be like, all right, cool. Like this is nice. Like, but I wouldn't feel anything. And look, please let us know in the chat. Like there's already another Bitcoiner saying like, look, multi-stacker 71.5K yawn, right? Simply nothing. It's like, I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything. And markets are emotional. Markets are psychology. Opti, do you feel something at 71.5K?
Nah, bro.
Do you feel excited? Do you feel like euphoric? Is there any type of like simply numb? Look, Bill C says it there. Like I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything. I'm like dead inside. Anyways,
it's almost like viewing it like as the family farm. Like, does the farmer go out and check the price of his land every day? How many times is he checking that? So like once you understand absolute digital scarcity, I think with time and as you become a more seasoned hodler, the emotions of it get put aside.
And also we got Sat in the chat. Shout out Lightning Goats. By the way, we have a special announcement regarding Lightning Goats and Simply Bitcoin. We'll have the surprise for you guys later on this month. But Lightning Goats said something very interesting. Adjusted for inflation, we still haven't made all-time highs. It's 78K if you adjust for inflation, right? So that's something to keep in mind. So yeah, I feel nothing. This shit sucks ass. And let's see if it pumps. Anyways, Opti, what's your take before we get onto the culture?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, like what you just said, I know I'm bored. Everyone in the chat's probably bored. If you've been around Bitcoin for a while, yes, 70K a couple years ago felt like moon, but now we've been going, we've been in the crab market for so long that we're just like, all right, it's literally the meme. Like, can you do something, please, Bitcoin? Like, we're all here to just see the Bitcoin price pumps, and we're idiots for, 3 years or whatever, and then we're geniuses for 1 year. But I've been saying for a while, and I've been echoing the same thing that Marty Ben has been saying, but I'm so glad that he put it in one piece here, because I also believe it's going to be an epic last leg of the bull run. I've been saying it in meme form for a while that this is the perfect storm setting up for great price appreciation. And I know everyone's been doing crazy, ridiculous price predictions, but we will be getting Omega candles soon. And I do want to echo something that I saw American Hodl tweet about the Wisconsin pension fund video. And it was that basically like pension funds are so boring. And even that video is just absolutely boring. Like the host was boring, the pension fund guy was boring, and that's not like throwing shade at them, but you can see that they're now starting to feel the thrill of being in Bitcoin. They're getting attention for their quote unquote, like we would all say, like safe, boring investments, and they won't be able to turn off the dopamine of feeling like a rock star when Bitcoin starts pumping, and that will catch fire. Like that will start to get into everyone's mind. They will all realize that like Bitcoin is the thing to be investing in. Like this is where all the action is in Bitcoin. And once that catches on, things are going to get absolutely crazy. And I mean, he was just like, yeah, we just put like a measly investment, but it was just hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, and we're just dipping our toes in this, and just wait till that catches on. And it's something, again, I've been saying for a while. It's this idea that the institutions move slow, and they do their due diligence before they actually invest in something. They have to be beholden to the shareholders, beholden to, regulations and compliance and all that stuff. And so once they actually start dipping their toes, it might seem like a small percentage of the total funds they're holding, but it's huge amounts of capital. And then, as we all know, as Bitcoiners, you don't just start or stop at 1% or 5% or whatever. You eventually want to go all in, because you realize that you're leaving money on the table. You're leaving purchasing power on the table if you are not investing in Bitcoin. And the last thing I want to say is I really love how he was able to absolutely destroy the volatility FUD, especially as a Bitcoiner that's been around for a long time. And if you talk to normies still, everyone always says the same thing, like, oh, Bitcoin's too volatile. I don't want to, invest in something that volatile. And anyone that knows anything about investing is a lot of assets are volatile, and the volatility is good. And if you see volatility in the market, that means that there is usually a lot of upside to your investment. And it's funny that most people that invest are very risk averse. So they're willing to take no, it's the opposite. People that don't invest are risk averse, but people that do invest are very willing to take risk. Like, you have to risk it for the biscuit. And now we're seeing that the people with capital are starting to realize what game is actually being played. And so, with all that being said, you guys are not ready for what is coming. I've been saying this for a minute, and Nico brought it up for a moment. Once you understand the Bitcoin fundamentals, you have a better worldview, and you can predict where things are going. And we're going. What's the Back to the Future meme? Like, where we're going, we don't need roads anymore. Like, we are going to the moon. Omega candle soon. The de-risking has happened, and it's going up forever. Like, I am super hyped for where we're going. Anyways, let's get Daniel's take on this.
Yeah, we're going where your dollars will no longer matter, right?
Bars.
Risk it for the biscuit. I like that one too, Alti. I would say one thing that I would add is unit bias. So with the middle class, we struggle with unit bias when they see $71,000, $72,000 per Bitcoin. Just that fundamental understanding that you can buy little pieces of it is such a huge hurdle to get past. But one thing that I think most people overlook is that unit bias goes the other way as well. So as these wealthy people on Wall Street, as these pension funds see the price go up, unit bias is going to kick in for them in reverse. So they're going to want it more as the price goes up. And I would close with just saying, like, we have never seen something as scarce as Bitcoin. So I estimate about 20% of coins are lost, and 50% will be owned by corporations, governments, pension funds. So that leaves about 30% of 21 million, or about 6 to 7 million coins for the everyday average Joe. So you're looking at somewhere probably like 0.13 Bitcoin to have a similar lifestyle on a Bitcoin standard as a millionaire does today. So amazing. Absolute scarcity is going to kick in. I think part of Lewis is gradually been that's why it's really incumbent on us to decentralize ownership of Bitcoin. Like, I don't want pension funds in Wall Street to hold all the Bitcoin. I think it's so important to get middle-class families on board with self-custody and stack regularly and see it as a long-term savings account. So those are my 2 cents.
100%.
Couldn't agree more. Wait,
Great
Nico,
takes.
I do want to read one more comment, because Winsome Hacks is just dropping sauce in the chat. And he goes, pension funds are the absolute masters of risk aversion. They are terrified of risk. Most people can't appreciate what a massive deal it is for them to buy a Bitcoin ETF. Yes, guys, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, this is big stuff happening right now.
1,000,000%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we still got the culture segment, lots to unpack, so strap in. I do want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about the Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats. Stack friends who stack sats. The Orange Pill app is the Bitcoin social layer. Find local Bitcoiners, events, and merchants near you. Join the 10,485 Bitcoiners that are currently on the Orange Pill app. It has a very clever filtration system, so you'll only find you'll only find Bitcoiners, and it has a really cool geographical system, so you'll find Bitcoiners near you. So if you're traveling, if you move to a new city, you don't know any Bitcoiners near you, you can pull up the Orange Pill app, and it will literally show you, and it will give you the ability to send them a message directly. It's one of the best ways to reach me. The Orange Pill app. Download it, open it. You can send me a DM. I'm easy to find on the app, and I will get back to you. If you guys have any questions, you guys want to say what's up, find me on the Orange Pill app. Download the Orange Pill app today, scan the QR code, or check the link in the video description. All right, everybody, let's move on to the culture.
The Daily Culture.
All right, everybody, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, KABOOMRACKS. They are the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. Check out their racks today by checking the link in the video/podcast description. Check out their inventory on Telegram, connect with a member of their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You can also sell your mining equipment with them, access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with KABOOMRACKS. So all you got to do, scan the QR code right now. It'll take you directly to the special sale KABOOMRACKS has going on. They're offering instant hosting for an S19K Pro 120 terahashes. There's a one-time payment of $2,466 plus $160 per month thereafter. Your hash rate goes online after your payment is confirmed. You own the miner. This is not a hash rate contract. The price includes a 3-month security deposit and first month. So guys, if you want to start instant hosting, check out the special offering that's going on by KABOOMRACKS. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video/podcast description. KABOOMRACKS. Alrighty. So let's talk about Daniel. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show today. What are you working on, man? What is this? Bitcoin is better. B is better.
That's right. Yeah, Bitcoin is better. So that means something different to everyone. So we're trying to bring together a diverse group of voices to communicate why Bitcoin is better to middle-class families. So we've got a working document. We've got, I think, close to 100 better questions. So that's our goal, is to get out there, hopefully eventually with billboards, radio ads, commercials, and basically just have a brand neutral way to help middle-class families ask better questions about money. Because I feel like once you ask enough questions, like that open loop will naturally lead people to Bitcoin as a better solution. So yeah, the nonprofit, we started it this year. We've got a builders guild. So it's our version of a volunteer program. So the idea behind that is, in speaking with people at Swan, River, Cash App, they're getting hundreds of applicants for every Bitcoin job. So everybody, like, there's so many people want to work on Bitcoin and growing adoption, but there's simply not enough jobs to go around. So instead of just like rejecting them, like, what if we could plug them into the Bitcoin ecosystem to work together to grow adoption? Because in that word, network is work. So as Bitcoiners, I think we fall into the trap sometimes of getting together and just like philosophizing and talking, when really there's a lot of work to be done just to help people ask better questions about money. So we have a few different open roles available. We've got an open application as well. And we currently have a volunteer helping us out with YouTube thumbnails for a Bitcoin creator.
What's the name of the YouTube channel, Daniel?
Luke Broyles. So we have a volunteer helping Luke Broyles out with thumbnails, and then also helping us out to do a makeover of the website as well.
Where can people find the YouTube channel? What's the name of the YouTube channel?
It's for Bitcoin is better, or for Luke Broyles?
The one that you're promoting here.
Okay. We don't have a YouTube channel for our nonprofit, but what we do is, like, we connect with Bitcoin creators who are strapped thin for resources and time, and we help them with volunteer hours. So we connect them with Bitcoiners who want to help out, whether that's video editing, graphic design, that type of thing. So our mission is really to connect people to grow Bitcoin adoption, more than pumping out content ourselves as an organization, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And thank you for clarifying that. And it's a phenomenon that's really interesting, right? It's a lot of people want to contribute to Bitcoin. They want to be part of the revolution. And a lot of these, you're right, a lot of these companies, they get hundreds of applications. When I was leading the Swan YouTube team, I remember there were so many people that wanted to apply at Simply too, man. We remember, Opti, we did that one job posting and we got like 25 applicants right now. The Simply crew is pretty big. So yeah, so many people want to contribute to the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, and so many people want to get involved. So it's so great that you've come up with this resource, allowing trying to get people together, trying to see, hey, how can I contribute to this? I know the money's broken. I know there's something going on. How do I get involved? And you're providing a resource. So what's the website so people can find it?
The website is bitcoinisbetter.org.
Okay, Bitcoin.
Love it. Can I jump in here, Nico? Because I want to kind of shift the conversation a little bit. I really love this infographic you have here, Daniel. And your mission is to get middle class families saving in Bitcoin. And the organization is called Bitcoin is Better. And so maybe what is like a 2-minute elevator pitch for people out there, middle class families that might be making excuses on why they shouldn't save in Bitcoin? Like, how is Bitcoin better? In what ways is Bitcoin better? How can it improve the lives of the everyday person out there?
And so in my book, I go through the different ways that the middle class has tried to save their money over the last 50 years. So we have from 1971 to 2021 is what I cover in the book. So 50 years of data. And most of the middle class has been convinced that real estate is the best way to save. But when you look at 6.9% new dollars printed per year, and you compare that to the median house sale in America, like, you're actually losing. You're not keeping up with the rate of monetary inflation, which is not CPI, it's expansion of the monetary units. So Bitcoin is truly like the invention of the middle class savings account. And most people think that they're too late because they have the unit bias where they see $71,000, $72,000 per Bitcoin and think it's out of reach. When in actuality, like we were just talking about the pension fund, like 1/10 of 1%, and it's like $180 million to them. So if you look at like 6 to 7 million coins are up for grabs, we are still so early. So I think the more we can decentralize ownership of Satoshis during this phase of 2020 adoption, the better that's going to be for the network. So I think, I mean, there is some pushback in the Bitcoin community. You get Bitcoin at the price you deserve, have fun staying poor, that type of approach, which, I mean, there's some benefit to the toxic maximalism. I think that's an important part of the ecosystem. But also, it's like, before I discovered Bitcoin, if somebody would have asked me the right questions, I think I would have adopted it much sooner. And also, I wouldn't have played around with crypto. I would have, not had to pay that tuition. So Bitcoin is better. That's our goal, is to help people ask better questions and then almost receive a type of scholarship where they don't have to pay the crypto tuition to eventually end up as Bitcoin only.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I've been saying for a while that I think the Bitcoin only education ecosystem is so good that you really don't have an excuse to go down the shitcoin path anymore. There's so much good content out there. But again, shifting the conversation, because you did want to talk about this on the show, and it is Bitcoin priced in tomato, and I have some chart or tomato soup. So what's going on here? And I'll go down on the page so you can reference some of the charts if you want.
Yeah, so the reason I chose tomato soup to price Bitcoin in within my book is because Campbell's Tomato Soup has not changed their ingredients, and they haven't changed their package size. So we can look at the price of a can of tomato soup from like the 1890s all the way up into today. And as Nico was mentioning earlier, like Jeff Booth's thesis, everything should be getting cheaper. Like, we have industrial farming, we have robotics, we have global supply chains. So you would think that the average American worker could earn more tomato soup today than they could, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But that's not true unless you're saving in Bitcoin. The price of tomato soup is crashing in Bitcoin. I mean, as you can see in this chart, I updated this today with the current price in sats. So if you hover over the chart there, so 2,149 sats. And if you go back to 2021 on this chart for the orange line, we were at 1728. So we still haven't hit an all-time high as far as our purchasing power in tomato soup, but we're heading in that direction, right?
Dude, that's funny.
That's amazing.
It's so funny because I had I don't know what it is about Bitcoiners and pricing it in food. I had Hoffa Zaguri, Chief Investment Officer at Swan, on Simply Bitcoin IRL. Then he has a model where it's like pricing Bitcoin in hamburgers.
Big Macs. Let's be specific here. Big Macs.
Big Macs. Like, what is it about Bitcoiners and the price models with food? It's hilarious.
It's what everyone says, Nika. You can't eat your Bitcoin, so we got to figure out how to price our Bitcoin and things we can eat.
It's so funny. It's only 2 data points, but like I'm starting to notice a trend. Oh man.
Yeah. So Bitcoin is better tomato soup.
Amazing.
Do you like tomato soup hot or cold?
I've never tried it cold.
I think there's like it's like an Italian dish, carpaccio or something. Maybe I don't know. Anyways,
I'd try it. I try it once.
It's really good. I like it. I couldn't eat it every day, but I personally like the taste.
I would like it warm. If that's what you're asking me, Nico, it's warm. I don't think I even really like tomato soup. It needs other things in the tomato soup for me personally. Okay, all right. Anyways, let's not talk about my food preferences here. Daniel, for the audience, what is the last message you want to leave with the audience? It could be a call of action. It could be about Bitcoin in general. It could be about life. What's the last message you want to leave with the audience?
I think a lasting legacy is how much you help people with what you do in your life. So most of the people watching right now have discovered Bitcoin and have benefited from Bitcoin. So what can you do with that information to help someone else? So I would just say don't get too cynical, because that's easy to do in fiat world. I would say, plug in, whether it's your local meetup, whether it's reaching out and, becoming a part of our builder program here at Bitcoin is Better. But just do something. Don't just sit back and take in information, because they're like, if you look at the Dead Sea, the Dead Sea, it just takes in, but it doesn't give out, and no life can live there. So that would be my parting message: is do something with the knowledge that you've acquired about Bitcoin. And yeah, make the world better.
Yeah,
love that. Couldn't agree more.
Love that, man. Dude, so first of all, thank you for coming on the show. What you're doing is incredibly important. Bitcoin is the money of the middle class. It is the people's money. It is not the money of the elites. It is the money of the middle class, because the middle and lower classes are the most affected by the ravages of inflation. And it is our job as individuals, as Bitcoiners, to really get that message out there. It's not red versus blue. It's not left versus right. It's not conservative versus liberal. It's really the party of Bitcoin, peace, prosperity, opportunity, hope, versus the party of fiat, the party of green, nihilism, slavery, war, all those bad things. So anyways, really, really glad and happy that, Daniel, you're on our side and you're fighting the good fight. Anyways, guys, this was Simply Bitcoin Live for June 5th, 2024. I'm your host, Nico Moran. This is our guest for today, Daniel, and my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. We love you all. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. And tonight we will have a Simply Bitcoin IRL with Giovanni. Giovanni is the creator of the Bitcoin Power Law. It's a model that is able to predict the price of Bitcoin into the future. Apparently, I have lots of questions for him tonight, and I've seen that topic become very popular on Bitcoin Twitter and on YouTube. So really looking forward to that episode. If you guys want to tune in, it's tonight at 5 p.m. Until then, love you guys. Have an amazing day. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Peace out, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.